Well, I got the truck in the shop and that crimping tool or hose pinching tool, whatever you want to call it, didn't do as good of a job as I expected it to, because I still lost some brake fluid. I cleaned it up and put some cardboard down, but here's the tool right here. I mean, it does what it says, but with this being a high pressure brake line, rubber brake line, or whatever material that's made out of, you're gonna need a lot of force to squeeze that so no brake fluid gets by. But let's look at the damage. As you can see, the piston for the caliper is all the way pushed out. And it got damaged too, so I literally have no brake pad on the backside of that rotor. Luckily, I got all the parts that I need. So today's installation video is gonna be rear brake caliper replacement. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you find any value in this video or helped you in any way, please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you already haven't. Now on to the video. Okay, so I'm gonna start by removing my brake line. And that's a 14mm head bolt, or banjo bolt, I think it's called. You can't really get a socket and ratchet in there, so your best bet is a wrench. And I have my oil drain pan down here in case I lose some brake fluid. Not that there's much left anyway. Put that back in the caliper. I'm just gonna tuck my brake line in back there so it's out of our way, it doesn't get damaged. Make sure you don't lose this, even though a new caliper is gonna come with new ones. To take off the caliper, you remove these two mounting bolts to the bracket, one up here and one down here. And then to remove the bracket, you remove these two mounting bolts that connect it to the hub, one right here and one down here. I'm going to attempt to remove the whole assembly, including with the disc, by removing the bracket bolts back here, but I do want to loosen these to be able to remove the caliper later. Okay, those are broken loose, so that'll be much easier to remove later on. Now these are 17mm and these are 19mm. So we're removing our bottom bracket bolt. And sometimes these are really tight. You may have to put some nut blaster on it, let it sit for a while, and then heat it up. Which is what I did. And the only way to do this is with a wrench. You can't really get an impact tool because of the shock, unless you don't have the TRD Pro version. You can probably get an impact in there with an extension, but I can't, so I'm stuck with using either a ratchet or a ratcheting wrench. Alright, there's our bottom bracket bolt. Now let's move on to remove the top. Here's our top mounting bolt. Okay, now I should be able to pull out the whole disc and bracket together. So let's give this a try. Man, it's not coming. You ready? And there's our messed up caliper slash piston.
Show the fan.
So yeah, this is a lesson learned. Don't drive when you can visually or audibly hear that you have brake problems. We're finally ready to start a cleaning process and install our new caliper, new disc, brake pads, and caliper bracket back on. I'm going to start by installing my brake rotors first, and I just want to point out that if you get brake rotors like the ones I do, please make sure you install the proper rotor to the proper side. Like this one says right passenger side. Don't install this on the left driver's side, because it does matter which direction these are facing the drills or the holes in the vents, as well as the slots right here. Some of them, they're not labeled and doesn't matter, but for this type of these rotors, it does matter. So you want to start out by taking out your new rotor and wiping it down with some brake parts cleaner. And this is to remove any oil from the factory. Alright, now we're ready to install. What I always like to do is put anti-seize along the circular portion of the hub where the brake rotor meets, to avoid any future binding or whenever you do a future replacement. Nice even coat. Okay, now for our rotor. always put a lug nut just to keep it in place, not that it'll fall out. And now we're ready to install our new bracket and brake caliper and brake pads. After you got your brake caliper bracket set up with your brake pads, I like to do it this way, where you put the brake pads on the bracket, but you don't have to. You can put your bracket on first and then your brake pads on there once you have your bracket mounted. I like to do it this way. And but from here, it's just pretty much the same installation as if you were replacing brake rotor and brake pads. The only difference is we disconnected the brake line from the caliper altogether. And I have some thread locker on my mounting bolts. Okay, so let's just try this and get it by hand. Now, these do get torqued down. I'm going to look up some torque specs. I think it's 60 pound-feet of torque, but I'm going to make sure and get back to you. And then we'll also install our caliper. The torque specs for the mounting bolts to the bracket back here is 46 pound-feet of torque, but I don't have a torque wrench that goes below 50, so I'm just gonna do it by hand as best as I can. Like that. I got my new caliper here. It is ready to install. You do want to get some brake grease and put some right here in these little flaps or ears, whatever you want to call them. Nice even coat, and then some right here as well. Also, you want to make sure you have some brake grease inside here where your guide pin goes in. I already put some in here. You can put a little bit more right here. And these get torqued down to 20 pound-feet of torque, which I do have a 3/8 torque wrench for. Now to connect our brake line. to our caliper, you want to remove this little cap right here. And then we remove our we take our banjo bolt from the old caliper. And you can reuse your old washers or your two new copper washers, and you put one in like that, put it through the brake line, and then another one in before you screw it on. And then you got this little hole in the caliper where this little hook goes into like this. And then you tighten down. And this just gets hand tight. Remember, it's 14 millimeters. Okay, so that's tightened down, and now we're ready to bleed our brakes. I'm going to remove our hose pinch that I had on earlier. Now we're ready to bleed our brakes, which I will probably show in a separate video how to do a brake bleed. That's pretty much it for the installation process of a new caliper. Please give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below what you think about my installation, and any items that I used today are in the description box below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.